Hey warriors, welcome back to the channel. Most people think power comes from control, but Machiavelli knew real power begins in the mind. Because when you can't be controlled, you control everything. Look around, the world isn't ruled by the strongest or the kindest. It's ruled by the thinkers, the ones who see 10 moves ahead while everyone else is still reacting. In every era, strength fades, charm dies, but strategy endures. The ones who rise are those who think differently. They don't follow emotion. They don't get lost in noise. They observe, they calculate, they adapt. And when the rest of the world panics, they strike. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." He meant that intelligence isn't about knowing more, it's about acting faster, seeing clearer, and thinking sharper. Because intelligence is the only form of power that cannot be stolen, copied, or destroyed. You either build it, or you remain under the control of those who did. But here's the truth most people never face. Your brain has been programmed to stay weak, to chase comfort, avoid pressure, and drown in distraction. You scroll through nonsense, argue over nothing, and wonder why you feel powerless. It's not because the world is against you, it's because your mind has stopped evolving. What if you could rewire it to think 10 times faster, to read people like open books, to predict outcomes before they happen, to become so mentally sharp that manipulation can't touch you? That's what I call cognitive edge conditioning, a system that turns your brain into a weapon of strategy, discipline, and control. It's not motivation, it's mental evolution. It's how you become unbreakable under pressure and unreadable in chaos. Because once your mind becomes stronger than your emotions, you stop reacting and start ruling. This is how you rise above manipulation, fear, and weakness, by mastering the one battlefield that matters most, your mind. Before we continue, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind is my power. Number 1. Intelligence is the real power. True dominance doesn't come from control, it comes from understanding. When your mind is sharper than your environment, you no longer fight for power, you attract it. The intelligent don't need to prove themselves through noise or conflict. They let logic and precision speak for them. Intelligence isn't just knowledge, it's foresight. It's the ability to see beyond emotion, beyond illusion, and into the structure of reality itself. When you understand how people think, how they react, and what drives them, you can move through any situation like a chess player among pawns. Most people waste their energy trying to appear powerful, while the intelligent quietly study, adapt, and predict. They know that real power is silent. It doesn't shout. It observes. It calculates. It moves with intention, because when you can predict, you can control outcomes without ever appearing in control. Machiavelli once said, "There is no other way of guarding oneself against flattery than by letting men understand that to tell you the truth does not offend you." He wasn't merely speaking about honesty, he was describing intellectual superiority, the kind of mind that is immune to emotional manipulation. A strong mind doesn't crave validation, it seeks accuracy, and that's what makes it dangerous. The intelligent mind detaches itself from ego. It learns from insults, dissects failures, and transforms pressure into focus. Where others crumble under criticism, the intelligent sharpen their edges. Because every test, every mistake, every betrayal becomes information, a data point for mastery. This is why intelligence is feared. The manipulator can deceive emotion, but not reason. You can trick someone who feels too much, but never someone who thinks deeply. When you train your cognition, you become untouchable. Not because you know everything, but because nothing surprises you anymore. Every move you make is deliberate. Every silence has meaning. Every reaction from others becomes predictable. This is what separates thinkers from followers. The intelligent move like shadows, quiet but decisive. They understand timing, perception, and human psychology. They can guide a conversation without speaking much, redirect conflict without confrontation, and gain influence without force. Intelligence creates leverage, and leverage creates freedom. When your mind understands how systems, people, and incentives work, you stop playing the game. You design it. That's when life begins to bend in your favor, not because you manipulate others, but because you master yourself. Intelligence is self-control. It's awareness. It's the discipline to pause when others panic, to analyze when others react, and to act only when the timing is perfect. The intelligent mind sees opportunity in tension and calm in chaos. It never lets emotion steer the wheel, because emotion blinds. Logic sees. That's why the intelligent can remain calm while everyone else burns. They've trained themselves to detach from momentary feelings and connect to long-term consequences. The fool speaks to be heard. The intelligent speak to direct. The fool reacts to every threat. The intelligent designs the threat. And when the intelligent move, it's not noise, it's strategy. Remember this: every word you speak, every choice you make, every emotion you allow is either strengthening or weakening your cognitive power. Protect your mind like a kingdom, because it is one. Sharpen it every day, challenge it, feed it pressure. Observe the world not for comfort, but for understanding. Because once you learn to think like no one else, you'll never be treated like everyone else. Machiavelli said it best: a man who wishes to act entirely up to his professions of virtue soon meets with what destroys him among so much that is evil. In other words, intelligence is not about being good, it's about being wise enough to survive. And those who survive the longest are the ones who think the deepest. Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My intelligence is my weapon. Number 2. Cognitive edge conditioning. This is the method that creates cognitive advantage. A 6-phase mental system designed to sharpen your mind under pressure, predict outcomes before they happen, and dominate every situation. By training your brain deliberately, you become faster, clearer, and impossible to manipulate, turning intelligence into unstoppable power. Let's break it down. Step 1. Create cognitive tension. Comfort is the quiet killer of brilliance. If you want a sharper mind, you must engineer pressure into your life until thinking becomes reflex, not refuge. Cognitive tension is not pain for the sake of pain. It is deliberate resistance that forces the brain to build new circuits, faster associations, and ruthless clarity. Start by redesigning your daily environment so it continually asks more of you than you expect. Choose tasks that strain your focus. Put yourself in controlled disagreement with smarter people. Read ideas that make you uncomfortable, and schedule short, intense periods where distraction is forbidden and consequences matter. This is not masochism, it's training. The mind behaves like muscle. Stress it with difficulty, and it grows. Leave it soft, and it atrophies. You must chase problems that have no easy answers and accept the temporary frustration that comes with growth. Seek conversations that expose blind spots, not compliments that soothe them. Place small bets where outcome hinges on your judgment, then study what the results reveal about your thinking. Don't let your brain live in the predictable. Swap the trivial for the challenging. Change your route to work. Learn a language with complex grammar. debate a principle you don't fully agree with, or take on puzzles that force pattern recognition under time pressure. Each novelty creates cognitive micro-injuries that, when healed, leave stronger neural pathways. But tension without reflection is noise. You must convert pressure into insight by capturing what you learn immediately. Journal the surprises, note emotional triggers, map recurring mistakes, and force yourself to extract one tactical adjustment after every test. The goal is not stress for spectacle. It is repeated micro-tests that demand adaptation. Build rituals that simulate crisis so your brain becomes fluent in decision-making under uncertainty. Short cold exposure to sharpen the breath and focus. Meditation to notice the first twitch of panic and choose response. Timed problem sessions to shrink deliberation. And deliberate social challenges to practice unreadability. These are your drills. Make them non-negotiable. As you increase cognitive tension, monitor your limits. Growth demands discomfort, but not collapse. If your system tips into chronic overwhelm, reduce volume, then increase precision. Fewer, sharper challenges win over relentless chaos. Over time, the capacity to hold tension becomes a resource. Your threshold rises, and mental clarity in pressure becomes habitual. When people panic, you think. When they hesitate, you act. That is leverage. In short, create a life that asks more of you than you expect. Convert each stress into learning, and refuse comfort that dulls perception. You are not training to survive mediocrity. You're training to outthink it. Machiavelli once said, "Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times." Drop this affirmation in the comments. I embrace resistance. Step 2. Master predictive thinking. Prediction is the currency of power. Those who foresee the movements of people, events, and circumstances always operate above the fray, untouched by chaos. Mastering predictive thinking requires more than observation. It demands a systematic cultivation of foresight that turns possibility into probability. Begin by studying patterns in human behavior. Notice repeated reactions, recognize habitual choices, and track the emotional triggers that push decisions in predictable directions. Record these patterns without judgment, then formulate scenarios for how they might evolve under varying pressures. The intelligent mind doesn't wait for events to happen. It anticipates, prepares, and positions itself ahead of time. Examine your own decision-making processes. Which choices repeat unconsciously, which assumptions mislead, and which impulses betray logic. Predictive thinking is self-directed as much as it is outward-focused. You must simulate outcomes internally before encountering them externally. Imagine conversations before they occur, foresee objections before they appear, and map responses in advance. The brain, when trained in this way, begins to detect subtleties invisible to ordinary perception, micro-expressions, tonal shifts, hesitations, all of which reveal hidden intentions. Expand this practice beyond people. Systems, economies, social dynamics, and environmental changes can all be anticipated with structured analysis. Seek signals where others see noise, a change in tone, a shift in routine, a delayed response. These are early indicators of larger patterns. Maintain a ledger of consequences, past successes, and failures to refine prediction models. Each misstep is not defeat, but data. The more you track and analyze, the sharper your anticipation becomes, and the less others' actions control you. This is strategic foresight at its purest. The ability to act not because circumstances demand it, but because you've already arranged the path ahead. Predictive thinking also demands emotional discipline. expectation of outcomes must remain detached from desire. You cannot forecast effectively if fear or greed distort perception. Neutral observation is a weapon. It allows you to remain calm while everyone else reacts impulsively. Train your mind to ask, what will happen next? For every interaction, decision, or event, then mentally rehearse multiple contingencies. When done consistently, the brain begins to automatically model scenarios, weigh probabilities, and prioritize actions without conscious strain. This is how intelligence becomes unassailable, not through brute knowledge, but through foresight that leaves no space for surprise. By predicting moves before they occur, you control the field without exerting force. You become the silent architect of outcomes, the unseen hand that guides events, and the strategist who never scrambles in reaction. Machiavelli once said, "Men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration." Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I foresee every move. Step 3. Develop mental agility. Mental agility is the ultimate weapon against stagnation and manipulation. A mind that bends without breaking dominates situations that rigid thinkers crumble under. To develop agility, you must train your thoughts to shift instantly, to abandon comfort when it hinders opportunity, and to see multiple solutions where others see only dead ends. Begin by exposing yourself to scenarios that force rapid evaluation, complex problems with incomplete information, debates where opponents challenge core assumptions, and tasks that demand simultaneous focus on multiple variables. The agile mind does not seek certainty. It thrives in ambiguity, learning to pivot without hesitation. Flexibility is not indecision. It is the ability to alter strategy without losing coherence, to discard old patterns when they cease to serve, and to improvise solutions under pressure. Practice reframing challenges from multiple perspectives. For every obstacle, ask, what alternative path exists that no one else sees? Build a habit of asking unconventional questions. Why is this the assumed solution? What would happen if I reversed the standard approach? Train your brain to hold several possible strategies at once, weighing their risks and potential outcomes, so that when circumstances shift, your response is immediate, precise, and effective. Mental agility also demands emotional fluidity. You must detach from frustration, disappointment, and attachment to a single plan, seeing these only as data points for adjustment. People who cling to one way of thinking become trapped. Those who move with circumstance, adapting instantly, become untouchable. Another aspect of agility is speed. The quicker your mind can analyze, adapt, and decide, the fewer openings exist for manipulation. Timed problem exercises, rapid-fire scenario rehearsals, and simulated crises teach the brain to react with both speed and accuracy. Observe how the world resists change, and use this resistance to refine your flexibility. Anticipate shifts before they are obvious and prepare to adjust without delay. Learn to balance creativity and logic. The first generates novel pathways, the second ensures they are viable. The agile mind is neither rigid nor chaotic. It is a disciplined dancer, flowing between options with calculated freedom. Every unexpected turn, challenge, or threat becomes an opportunity to practice flexibility, to sharpen instinct, and to expand mental range. When your thinking becomes fluid, others' attempts to trap, deceive, or control you fail because you never occupy a fixed position. You are a constant variable, unpredictable yet precise, adaptive yet intentional. Mastering mental agility transforms the brain into a dynamic weapon capable of navigating uncertainty, complexity, and conflict with ease. Machiavelli once said, He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not will be victorious. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My mind bends, never breaks. Step 4. Dominate through unpredictability. Predictability is a vulnerability. Those who follow patterns can be anticipated, controlled, and defeated. To dominate through unpredictability, you must train yourself to act without visible motive, to change behavior in ways that disorient observers, and to cultivate a presence that resists anticipation. Begin by altering routines deliberately. Vary your schedule, switch methods, and rotate approaches so that no one can map your habits. Small inconsistencies build uncertainty around your character, forcing others to hesitate before acting, unsure of your next move. Extend this principle to communication. Speak selectively, reveal intentions sparingly, and allow ambiguity to create advantage. The powerful mind understands that perception is reality. By projecting uncertainty and leaving gaps in understanding, you shape how others respond without direct confrontation. Unpredictability is not chaos. It is controlled fluidity, the ability to pivot, deceive, or misdirect while maintaining strategic purpose. Practice creating false leads in negotiations, experiments, and social interactions. Hint at one plan, execute another, and adjust in real time. Over time, observers cannot trust assumptions, and your actions become autonomous from external pressures. Integrate this with strategic visibility. Occasionally reveal predictable behavior to lull competitors into complacency, then shift unexpectedly to exploit openings. Timing is critical. Unpredictability works when executed with precision, not randomness. Your unpredictability should generate hesitation, confusion, and caution in others, which grants you the operational advantage. Socially, cultivate an aura of enigma. Disclose selective personal details, vary emotional responses, and modulate tone and energy so that your internal state is unreadable. This creates psychological leverage because those who cannot anticipate are forced into reaction rather than initiative. Dominance through unpredictability also extends to decision-making. Avoid predictable choices, evaluate multiple solutions, and act in ways that disrupt expectations without sacrificing coherence. The intelligent mind thrives in this space, turning surprise into a tactical instrument and transforming the unknown into a controlled environment. When others plan based on expectation, you operate on initiative. When they hesitate, you act decisively. Over time, consistent unpredictability creates an invisible shield. Manipulation fails, deception falters, and resistance diminishes because opponents can neither calculate nor anticipate effectively. To dominate, embrace fluidity in presence, decision, and strategy, ensuring that your movements cannot be mirrored or constrained. Machiavelli once said, "A wise ruler ought never to keep faith, when by doing so, it would be against his interests." Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am strategically unpredictable. Step 5. Harness emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the hidden engine of influence. While others rely on force, charm, or rhetoric, the truly powerful manipulate outcomes by controlling the currents beneath the surface. Harnessing emotional intelligence begins with acute self-awareness. Recognize your impulses before they manifest. Detect the first flicker of frustration, fear, or desire, and transform them into strategic signals rather than reactive forces. Observation of others is equally critical. Subtle shifts in tone, posture, expression, and timing reveal intentions, weaknesses, and unspoken opportunities. By reading emotions as clearly as data points, you gain predictive advantage, understanding motivations that remain invisible to ordinary perception. Emotional mastery is not about suppressing feeling, but about calibrating it, projecting confidence when unsure, warmth when strategic, detachment when observing, and intensity when influence is required. The intelligent mind leverages mood to shape decisions. It knows that humans rarely act solely on logic, and that perception often outweighs reality. Train yourself to influence without obvious effort. A nod, a well-timed pause, a subtle facial change can redirect choices, control tension, or disarm resistance. Simultaneously, fortify your own emotional resilience. The stronger your internal regulation, the less others' provocations dictate your behavior. Practice exposure to discomfort deliberately. Challenging conversations, confrontational debates, and high-pressure social environments to refine your capacity to respond rather than react. The more attuned you become, the more invisible your manipulation, because influence is strongest when it feels organic to those affected. Emotional intelligence also allows the agile balance between patience and action. Knowing when to push, when to retreat, when to listen, and when to speak creates layers of advantage unseen by competitors. By mastering these dynamics, you convert subtle human behaviors into levers, orchestrating interactions without overt dominance. The intelligent mind integrates emotional observation with predictive strategy. Every emotional signal is interpreted for its potential impact on outcomes, and every response is crafted to maximize advantage. Emotional intelligence shields the mind from deception, amplifies leadership presence, and transforms interpersonal friction into opportunities for control. By combining insight into others with control over self, you operate in a space where manipulation cannot reach you, and influence flows naturally from perception and execution. Those who master this domain dictate environments without force, navigate conflict without friction, and emerge in command without revealing the extent of their control. Machiavelli once said, "He who becomes master of himself will be master of others." Now, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I command my emotions. Number 3. Becoming the apex thinker. Becoming the apex thinker is not a title. It is a state of mental supremacy where the mind governs every choice, every perception, and every outcome. This is the stage where reaction ceases and calculation dominates. Chaos becomes an ally, complexity a playground, and pressure a tool for refinement. The apex thinker observes without attachment, predicts without hesitation, and moves without revealing intention. Ordinary people respond to events. They scramble, panic, and negotiate from weakness. The apex thinker designs circumstances, bending probability to advantage, and shaping environments so that outcomes align with strategy rather than chance. To reach this state, one must integrate all prior disciplines: cognitive tension, predictive mastery, mental agility, unpredictability, and emotional intelligence. Each element compounds, creating a mind that sees farther, calculates faster, and adapts effortlessly. Decision-making becomes instantaneous because anticipation and strategy are internalized. Hesitation is eliminated because foresight covers every plausible scenario. Social interactions, once a source of stress, become instruments of influence. Subtle gestures, well-placed words, and calibrated presence guide others toward decisions they believe are their own, while you remain unreadable and untouchable. The apex thinker thrives under scrutiny and adversity, using pressure as fuel rather than distraction. Fear, envy, and manipulation lose power because the mind has evolved beyond external control, deriving strength from disciplined cognition rather than circumstance. Information becomes leverage. Knowledge is transformed into action with surgical precision. When facing complexity, the apex thinker does not search for certainty, but constructs pathways through ambiguity, mapping multiple futures simultaneously and choosing the optimal route with clarity and confidence. Competitors and adversaries perceive intelligence but cannot measure its full scope. Their attempts to deceive or trap fail because the apex thinker is always several steps ahead. At this level, the mind is not simply reactive or strategic. It is an autonomous engine of insight, awareness, and power. Every decision reflects understanding, every pause demonstrates patience, and every action projects authority without exposure. To achieve this, one must continually refine mental discipline, embrace challenges that stretch capacity, and apply cognitive practices consistently until thinking becomes instinctive yet deliberate. Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Fear here is not brutality, but the quiet recognition of intellect and unpredictability. The world will not wait for hesitation, and neither will opportunity. Knowledge without action is a cage, and intelligence without application is wasted potential. This is your moment to step out of comfort and claim the mental power that separates the ordinary from the untouchable. The practices you've learned, cognitive edge conditioning, predictive mastery, mental agility, strategic unpredictability, and emotional control, are not theories. They are tools for dominance, instruments that transform your mind into a force that cannot be bent, manipulated, or deceived. The challenge is simple, yet brutal. Pick one step, apply it relentlessly for 7 days, and observe how your perception, response, and influence evolve. Push boundaries that once felt safe. Embrace resistance that once felt uncomfortable. Force your brain to adapt, because growth demands tension, and clarity emerges only under pressure. When you act deliberately, you begin to outthink others in ways they cannot detect, anticipate their moves before they occur, and shape outcomes without apparent effort. Every decision becomes strategic, every interaction an opportunity, and every obstacle a lesson that fortifies the mind. But this requires more than commitment. It demands discipline. Distractions, excuses, and fear are the enemies of intelligence. Remove them ruthlessly. Time wasted is leverage surrendered. Surround yourself with stimuli that challenge, environments that test, and situations that stretch cognition beyond habitual limits. Train your focus like a weapon. Observe every human behavior with scrutiny. Test assumptions continuously. Measure outcomes and refine methods. The process is iterative, and mastery is gradual, but each step compounds until your mind becomes your greatest advantage. Remember, power that can't be exercised remains powerless, and intelligence that is not applied is invisible. Commit to action, not intention. Take what you've learned and weaponize it in everyday life, in negotiations, in social strategy, in decision-making, and in moments of stress where others falter. When your thoughts are sharper than manipulation, faster than fear, and clearer than confusion, no one can control you again. This is the moment to become untouchable. If you found value in this system, take one final step. Like this video to affirm your commitment, share it to influence minds around you, and subscribe to continue cultivating mastery every day. Your brain is not just a tool, it is your empire. Protect it, sharpen it, and deploy it relentlessly. Machiavelli once said, "He who becomes master of himself will be master of others." Your challenge begins now. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. My mind controls destiny.